Hello everyone, welcome to StraightA. Dawson here, back with another video here today, and it is the Houston Texans' turn to line up in the 32 team predictions video. I'm very excited to get into the Houston Texans. CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs. This team is going to be so fucking electric, and I have so many hot takes with this team. I'm very interested to share it with you guys, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are having hot predictions about the Houston Texans themselves. But before we get started, please leave a like down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and comment any suggestions for future videos below. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. First of all, as many of you probably already know, the depth chart, here we go. And this team is starting to get loaded. This team is starting to be very scary. First of all, CJ Stroud, great up-and-coming quarterback, had an excellent rookie season, and now people are like, is he going to be in the sophomore slump? Is he going to be in the, even break out even further in his second year? I'm not too sure, and I may be jumping the gun with my thoughts and predictions about CJ Stroud, but I love him. I think he's going to be so electric next year. He already showed so much last year, and the team only got better. I think the coaching staff is only going to get better. I think this team only got better. I think there's almost no reason for this team to do worse than they did last season, unless CJ Stroud mentally is not there. I just don't see that happening. Granted, this is a prediction I would make for a third-year kind of quarterback, kind of like I did for Trevor Lawrence last year, and that's kind of where my thoughts are going, is that there's going to be a new breakout star in the NFL next year, and I think CJ Stroud is already a breakout star, but I think somebody's making that Joe Burrow, Josh Allen leap this year. And I think it's either going to be one of two people. I'm going to make the predictions that both of them are going to do it because I think they're both very capable of doing it. I think it's CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence. Spoiler for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think both these guys are going to have the most electric season possible so far. And I'm very excited to see it. Either way, we'll get into more CJ Stroud later. Either way, they have Davis Mills in the background just in case something does go wrong. But he's fine. He's capable, I guess. Joe Mixon. I think he gets hated on a lot. I don't think he's excellent. I think he's good. I think it's good volume. I think he's a reliable running back. He's going to be great in the receiving game. Dameon Pierce is going to be good for those goal line works. I think Joe Mixon is just going to be really, really reliable for this team in an O-line that I think is not bad. I just think it's probably the weakest part of their team. I don't know that there's a secondary, but I think it's the O-line. Secondary, but again, this is me saying this is the weakest part of the team. Them still being a top 12, top 14 type beat for that caliber of that position of the team. So I'm not too worried about that. Then we got to talk about the receiving room. There's 5 guys here that could easily be wide receiver 3 and up. Easy. Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Robert Woods, and Noah Brown. For clarification, I think Noah Brown and Robert Woods would normally be a wide receiver 3 caliber person on another team. Instead, they are both 4 and 5 on this team because they have potentially 3 wide receiver 1s on this team. Tank Dell, I'll give more in the wide receiver 2 category just because we haven't seen a whole lot from him in a full season. But Stephon Diggs is a certified number 1 receiver. Nico Collins had a breakout year last year. I think he's going to continue that momentum, maybe in a different way because he's now number 2 instead of number 1. These two dynamics between Diggs and Collins is going to be super weird and super strange. I'm kind of curious how it's going to end up, but both of them are going to be super important for this offense and are going to be hard to cover both. Dalton Schultz, reliable tight end. He's going to get a lot of the goal line work. He's going to get a lot of the blocking work. I think he's just going to be reliable for CJ Stroud. I don't think there's going to be much to it other than that. Tank Dell. I wish Tank Dell. I wish I could sit here and say I know that Tank Dell is going to have an amazing season next year. And the only reason I can't say that is because somebody has to not eat. Somebody has to there are so many people eating here. Joe Mixon, Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz. And unfortunately, Tank Dell's that 5th person. I debated on Nico Collins being that person, but I think they love Nico Collins and what he did last year. So I just don't see that happening. So Tank Dell's kind of my prediction to be the person who gets to eat a little bit less because everybody else is eating the fucking buffet. So we'll see, but I'm very excited to see what happens. O-line, you got some Laramie Tunsil's reliable veteran, Shaq Mason, I like him. Kenyon Green, I think is good. I think all this is just good, reliable O-line. Slightly above average, I'm not going to critique it too often. Then you got the defensive line, and this defensive line gets hungrier and hungrier as the years go on. I think it's going to just snowball. Now, granted, I don't know if they'll do better in numbers per se, but they're going to do way better in pressure, I think. I think between them doing as well as they're going to do in the offense, putting so much struggles on the defense on the other side of the ball, I think this team's going to be super scary and super hard for teams to compete with. And this defense is not going to make it easy. The secondary, I think is good. I think it's just actually really underrated. I love Jimmy Ward, of course, I love Jimmy Ward. Love Jeff Okudah. I really, really love Jeff Okudah. I think he really has that potential to do. Desmond King II, also a little sneaky. Could be really good here in this team, by the way. I just saw his name. I was like, oh, boom. Derek Stingley Jr., amazing. I think he could potentially have, the most interceptions in the league. I think that's really cool. Jalen Petrie, something like that, however you say his name. This secondary, pretty damn good. Top 10 contender, maybe? I'm not too sure. There's a lot of question marks for the secondary, but I like them. I like them a lot. So we'll see what they end up doing. But we'll kind of go into stats and kind of talk about it real quick. I won't go too much into going all over the place and all that. C.J. Stroud last year, of course, got 4,100. It's been pretty downhill since Deshaun Watson's 4,800 season, I think. He had 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Very good ratio. And 23 touchdowns surprised me. I thought he had more than that. But I still have confidence that he's going to do even better this next season. He played 15 games. I believe it was one injury scare, then one near the end of the season where it didn't matter. Can't remember exactly. He's very safe with the ball. I think he's going to be more explosive this next year, though. I think he's going to do a lot more volume-based, especially with Stephon Diggs there. So we'll see how that actually ends up. His rushing yards, again, he's not most spectacular, but he's fine. He gets a couple rushing touchdowns every now and then. This team has not been a big rushing player in the past. Now they have Joe Mixon, and I think he's going to easily break 1,000. I don't know. I think just because I don't see him as being as efficient anymore, I see him in the low thousands, like 1,050, something like that. 1,050 or below. So that's kind of my thought process when it comes to Joe Mixon. But again, he's still going to get a lot of good work, and so I think he's going to get a couple touchdowns. But I think Dameon Pierce will kind of steal some of those away from him too. Looking at the receiving now, Nico Collins was the spectacular breakout guy on this team. I think he'll get less yardage. Just because, again, you're now giving Stephon Diggs a lot of love, and Tank Dell's going to be fully healthy. I think he gets less yardage. I still think he'll be the number 2 guy on this team. I do think that Stephon Diggs, despite a lot of people's worries about him being a diva, is going to eat. He's going to eat so much on this team, and I think he's going to get a big fat contract, and then possibly he might kind of come complacent. I am excited to see Stephon Diggs in this offense. I think a lot of people are sleeping on him. I like Stephon Diggs a lot. Nico Collins, I also like a lot. I just think he'll just get less yardage, purely to the point. Tank Dell. Man, I didn't put him on my prediction PowerPoint, and I'll talk about him more. But I do think he'll get a significant number where he would be on my PowerPoint and be able to be a prediction I make. We'll talk about that later. I debated on swapping out Dalton Schultz, but I always put a tight end in there, so I'm just going to keep up that trend. Dalton Schultz, again, going to get a lot of touchdowns, I think. He's going to get 5, 6, who knows. Dalton Schultz is going to do very well. Noah Brown, Robert Woods will be reaching up to that 500-yarder mark because they're so fucking reliable and so good. Joe Mixon will get in that game. It's going to be so much to feed around. I just don't know how I could possibly not make the prediction I'm going to make. Defensively and interception-wise, all that, sacks-wise, they've been going up for a long time. They're about 46 sacks, about 14 interceptions last year. I think they're only going to get a little bit better, maybe stay around the same. I don't see that jumping up too much. I don't see that dropping any. So they'll stay around that range, I think. Not anything special to really predict there. But again, we'll kind of look at the stats for Joe Mixon. Again, he's really been a reliable 1,000-yarder, except for that one season he played 6 games. 814 yards, I think, was also really, really weak. But he's capable of reaching high numbers of touchdowns, too. It's going to be hit or miss. It depends on how this team's going to use Joe Mixon, but I think he's going to be more in this category of last year. Just purely because I think the O-line he has is better, but I think he'll probably be not the main focus as maybe the Bengals kind of used him. I think at Stephon Diggs, again, anybody predicting that Stephon Diggs is not going to be good does not see the last 6 seasons he's had. Even with him being a diva this last season, he almost got 1,200 yards. I think this boy's going to eat. Well, I don't think necessarily he's going to get 1,500 yards, don't get me wrong. I think he's going to get a bunch of food here. He's going to eat so much that he's going to have no problem being on this team. Either way, let's go right into the predictions now for the Houston Texans. Of course, the Houston Texans are my first prediction, and I'm just going to go ahead and start this prediction with a banger. I said first prediction, but you know what I mean. It's next prediction. I'm going to start this off with a hot take banger. I think C.J. Stroud's going to throw for the most yardage in the NFL next year. Let that sink in for a second. Let's let that sink in. I genuinely believe C.J. Stroud is going to bounce up to 5,000 plus yards. Now, if no one throws for 5,000, I think he's going to be at least the second most passing yards in the league, if not first. I think he's pretty much MVP contender. The reason I think that, he played very safe last season. I think that was very, very good. I think he has the confidence now. I think this coaching staff is going to be ready to utilize the young talent they have. I think that this team is prepared and ready to go and see how much farther they can make it. And I think C.J. Stroud is going to be encouraged to take more shots. I think he went 23-5, 23 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I think he basically kind of goes for a bunch more passing touchdowns and a bunch more yardage, but in turn probably throws a couple more interceptions. Maybe not 11. 11 was a little aggressive. I thought about 9. I thought about 10. I think he's going to get a lot more love when it comes to his passing game. I think he's going to do so well. Also because Stephon Diggs does so well in down the field. Nico Collins does so well just in like the what's called the I forgot what the position's called, but whatever. Tank Dell is going to be an X factor out there. Joe Mixon is going to just pump him and bump his yardage up as the season goes on. C.J. Stroud, mark my words, will be the breakout quarterback this next year. If it's not C.J. Stroud, it's Trevor Lawrence. One of these two guys is going to be breaking out, but I think it's C.J. Stroud. I think he's the consensus guy everybody loves. I think he's going to do really well in the rushing, 200, 250, 4 rushing touchdowns. Pretty damn good. When it comes to Joe Mixon, reliable, really good. I don't see him not breaking 1,000 yards. He'll, again, probably get around the 1,050 mark. 7 rushing touchdowns. I've debated on more, but just because I think Damian Pierce is going to get a lot of love, and I think a lot of it's going to be centered around C.J. Stroud in the passing game, I just think he'll get less. Maybe he can get 8, 9. I just don't see him breaking 10. So, love you, Joe Mixon, but that's kind of my prediction. Now, where does the eating go? Who eats in this team? Stephon Diggs is going to be eating so much. I don't necessarily think he's going to get 1,500 yards. I think he's going to be right around 1,400. 13, maybe high 13s, low 14s, that type of number. Stephon Diggs is going to eat. Mark my words. Mark it right here, right now. And he's going to get 10 receiving touchdowns. I think he's going to break 10. He could get 11. I just think 10 is a solid number. Maybe 9, maybe 10's my prediction for him. Nico Collins, again, about 100 yards, step back or something like that. Nico Collins just going to be giving a little bit to Stephon Diggs, and is going to still say the same when it comes to receiving touchdowns because he's so fucking good in the red zone. He's just so good. And then I think 1,100 yards, probably around about, maybe just missed 1,100, something like that. Nico Collins is going to do so well. Dalton Schultz, a lot of receiving touchdown love. Not even going to question his love there. Now, granted, I did think about bringing his touchdowns down to about 5 just because, like, there's Stephon Diggs, there's Nico Collins, there's Joe Mixon. I don't care. Putting my foot to the pedal, and I'm going all the way in, accelerating all the way. Dalton Schultz is going to do very, very awesome as well. I do think he'll be short of 700 yards, though. I think he's going to be more utilized for the conversions and red zones more than anything. Again, that's usually tight end role, but just because they have such explosive offensive weapons already, he's going to be less needed for the short, like third and 2 type plays, or right in the red zone being utilized as much. Tank Dell on this list would probably be around the 800-yard mark for me. I don't know. I decided to kind of give myself a little bit of a leeway and not put him down tier 2 because I think he's going to be short of 1,000. He's going to be like 200 yards short, 800, maybe 700, right above it. And now, with this said, I do think this is my genuine prediction. I think it's going to go Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz, that type of deal. Robert Woods and the other guy, Noah Brown, will come in later. There are worlds where Tank Dell is Stephon Diggs or is Nico Collins. If anything, I'd be much more leeway of swapping Nico Collins and Tank Dell. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Tank Dell's going to take that jump just because of how many mouths there are to feed. But there is a world where maybe Tank Dell kind of does break out and become this awesome superstar and just takes a Nico Collins away from him. I just don't think Nico Collins is going to regress that much, and I don't think that the team's going to give up on him. So that's my prediction for the receiving corps. When it comes to sacks, 40 to 50, I think it'll be around about. That's about 46 is what they allowed last year, I believe. So it's going to be around about that same, probably a little bit higher. I don't know. I just feel like the O-line's going to do a little bit worse just because of injuries and older age. We'll see. Sacks, again, this is still around about where they were. I think they got, again, around the 45 to 50 mark for sacks. I think they'll go a little bit higher, but probably not anything too explosive. They could go lower. They're going to stay around about the same, though. Interceptions, 14 to 16. I don't see them making a big jump in the secondary in terms of interceptions. I see them doing really well in coverage, but I just don't see the interceptions really be converted a whole lot. So 14 to 16 is very fair. Now, when it comes to their record, with C.J. Stroud doing so well, they're going to have a very, very good record. I want that to be known. I genuinely think they could go 5-1 in their division. I'm not going to use that for my hypothetical when we're running through for their record. I think they'll go 4-2 at the very, very least, but I think 5-1 is my genuine prediction for the Texans for their division. When you look at the teams they're facing, they're not facing easy teams. but I think they win a lot of these games. Lions, Bills, Dolphins. I say they go 2-1 in those 3-game stretch. I don't know who they could lose to. All 3 of these teams can be very, very fucking explosive. Dolphins, you'll hear that I have some very interesting takes for their team as well this next year. But that basically brings them to 6-3. 6-3, pretty good. Ravens, Bears, we'll give them a split here too. I think Bears could be really good. Ravens, really good as well. 7-4. Then you have the Patriots, Jets, and Chiefs. They go 2-1 there. Easy. 9-5 is it would be right there. I think they go 3-0. Cowboys, Packers, Vikings, and I say they go 12-5. There's a world they go 11-6, whatever. That's also a very common record for them to do. I have them going 12-13 wins because I think they could genuinely go 5-1 in their division, and they could upset a lot of these other teams. Could upset both the Ravens and Bears. I don't know if it's an upset for the Bears necessarily, but you know what I mean. Cowboys, I think, are a very beatable team. Chiefs, I think, are a very beatable team nowadays. I think while they have won so much in a row, the regular season, I think they have definitely gotten weaker in. So we'll see with this team how they could do. I'm genuinely excited to see this Houston Texans team go, and they could be one of the best teams in the league next year. I'm very excited to see so. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys in the next one. StraightA Dawson out of here.